May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Santino?
Present.
Mrs. Gill?
I'm here.
Ms. Lipscomb? Mrs. O'Donnell? Mrs. Reese?
Here.
Ms. Smith? Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mrs. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Marks?
Here. May I have approval of minutes for executive session, August 22nd, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Santino?
Yes.
Mrs. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Marks?
Yes. May I have approval of regular board minutes, August 22nd, 2022?
So moved. Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Santino?
Yes.
Mrs. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Marks?
Yes. This time I'll open up for public comments for agenda items only. I see none. We will move on to report of the solicitor. Mr. Long?
I have nothing at this time. My items were discussed in the closed session.
Thank you. Mr. Dildo, report of the superintendent, please.
Good evening, Mr. Marks, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Before I get to my report, I would ask Mr. Marks your indulgence to have certain adjustments to the agenda. There are 4 in total. Okay. So the first thing is a bit of editing under 6.3 policy and planning. We have items alphabetized A and C. Can we just rename C to a B? My apologies. Under item 6.6 C as in Charlie. I'd like to add an additional resignation. Employee 5392, school business administrator, administration with an effective date of November 30, 2022. Under 6.6E, my apologies, these are 4 professional development. These are 4 people going to the same professional development opportunity. There is no cost to the board. Dr. Martin did call me and she did know that was a little bit tardy, the information, but she felt that the event for her staff was valuable. So if I could read the name of the event, it is going to occur on October 4th. So if I didn't read it in, they couldn't go. The event is called Strength-Based Approaches to Inclusive Education. Again, it's October 4th. There's no cost to this. The 4 staff members are Gina Crescenzi, Catherine Kanoff, Jennifer Matthews, and Genevieve Catania. Did I do okay, Dr. Martin?
Yes. I'm sorry, did you say strength-based approaches?
Strength-based approaches to inclusive education, Mrs. Gilchin.
Thank you.
Can you just read those names again?
Sure. Gina Crescenzi, Catherine Kanoff, that's 2 Ks, Mr. Wilson, Jennifer Matthews, and Genevieve Catania. Because this is not in district and it's off site, it's best to read it in to protect the employees. Okay. And the last item would be a singular item under 6.6K. There is no attachment because there originally was not a termination, but there will be a singular termination of employee 2865. The effective date will be October 3rd, 2022. Any questions? So let's go back to the beginning of the superintendent's report. I did want to very much get to this evening to enunciate that last Friday, the district, but more specifically, Glendora Elementary School was chosen by the National Blue Ribbon Program as a recipient of the 2022 as a Blue Ribbon School. There were only 297 of these schools, not districts, individual schools selected in the country. There were only 9 in New Jersey, and there were only 1 in South Jersey, and that was Glendora Elementary. It was truly special. That is something that is garnered over time on the performance of that school. So looking back to not only Mr. McCarthy, but to prior administration there and teachers and students and their performance, it's a culmination and it's a long application process. They were waiting for the student test results. And once they were received, there started to be some glimmers of that this is going to happen. And it was very cryptic, and I apologize to the Board of Education. But part of the announcement was from President Biden's cabinet. The Secretary of Education, Dr. Cardona, was going to come to the building. And it was a really, neat thing, at least in my professional career. They were very restrictive on who could come. So obviously the principal could be there. They wanted the I don't know quite what they had called you, Mr. Marks, but it kind of fit.
Yeah.
No, politely, it was, they couldn't, like, there's so many different, the board president in another state is called something else. So Mr. Marks was good enough to attend, and Mr. Cho and I, and it was really neat. There was a celebration there with the students and staff. Then, of course, the Secretary of Education came and was able to push into lower grades. He himself was a second grade teacher. So it is very, very rare to get such a neat award for our district. And I think Mr. McCarthy and his teaching staff are still floating in the air with just being tickled. It was a great thing for Glendora and that community there. So I just want to let you know that we had our state teacher of the year a couple years ago, and now having a building to be a blue ribbon school finalist is pretty neat. Aside from that, I would like to ask for a consent resolution for item 6.2A through 6.6E as amended.
Some
Second.
Do we have any questions?
Sure. Can I go? 6.65, the Mary Dobbins School, where is that? Is Miss Dr. Martin here? Where's Mary Dobbins School?
6.65.
In Broward County, it's a student, that particular student is a student that's in foster care placement, and that was the student has transitioned into our district already attending,
Special service.
but it's right now how I forgot what it used to be called.
I was just curious. It's just
Like
a
a
big
residential
chunk
area.
of change, so.
Yeah, it's like a residential, it's not something.
Okay, okay, so it's, okay,
Yeah, it was this, they're no longer in residential, they're in foster care, but still attending the day program, which is an.
okay. All right, thank you. 6.6E, the professional development, the NJPSA Fall Conference. I see that one principal is going, or the other principals, no one else wanted to go, or what exactly is the conference?
Well, fall conference, is that the one up north, Mr. Cho? Is that up exit 10, that conference? I think that NJPSA has a series of professional development, Mrs. Gilch, and they do run this each year. This is probably the first time in 3 years they've brought it back in person. So.
I was just surprised only one principal. I didn't know what it was entailed.
They're entitled to ask. And I do think that, I'm going to take a note, certainly talk to Mrs. Rosebounds, and if she deems it certainly something that was worthwhile for that training, to maybe encourage her colleagues to have a few more next year. We can only really send 4 under the law, this, so we can send up to 4. And then if we want 5 or more, we just need, even if the board approved that, the county office has to approve it.
Okay.
Okay, I don't think they would stand in the way of it. They would
No, I was
wanna
just
know.
curious
Yeah.
why other principals didn't take.
I have a note.
Okay. You answered my one question about fall sports. 6.6, the Pumpkin Festival. I
Which-
see that
Which
we're,
number?
P.
Yep. Mhm.
All right, so I see on here that we are charging for the, I didn't have a chance to ask any of these questions, so that's why I'm asking them out loud now. I see that Highland is having the truck festival and we're charging them $500 to use our buses. The Pumpkin Festival, we are using 2 buses and we're not charging anything. And I know in the past we have, but with the price of things, I don't understand why we're charging one and not the other.
That's a good question, Mrs. Gilch. And certainly the Board of Education can opt to, as it is written on the agenda, or we can charge both entities or not charge both entities. But what I did, and you kind of indicated, we've had both of these, both the township asking for buses for the truck festival, which we charged them in the past. And 3 years ago, believe it or not, was the last time we've had the Pumpkin Festival, the shuttle buses. And at that time, the board didn't charge them. So I just put it on what we did before. Again, this is kind of a derivative of coming out of COVID. I just put back on what the board had done in the past.
Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I did email, Mrs. Gracia did send an email out to everybody about that, because I had asked, and I know somebody else had asked, because I
I
was
didn't get out of work
curious
till late,
if,
so I didn't get a chance.
if Main Stage was for profit or not, and I thought maybe that was a reason why we weren't charging, I did ask.
I mean, because that's who runs the Pumpkin Festival, and I know all the proceeds go to Main Stage. And I'm not saying I want to take any money away from them, but if we're busing people back and forth, that's gas money.
Who runs the food truck festival? Does that mean Sage as well?
That's township.
Township.
And
That's a
we're
nonprofit
taking,
as well?
that's what I mean, and
That's how it's listed here.
it's just.
You're right, Mr. Wilson.
So does anybody have any thoughts on
Well,
this?
let me fill in that
Go
blank
ahead.
though, because it's inconsistent from what was, we received an original request, okay, to have parking lots by the scholarship committee that Mr. Mercado mentioned for their food truck event in October. Separate from that, we received for the same event, a request from the township to supply the busing shuttle. It wasn't all one package.
Okay,
So that's what he's picked up there.
okay,
We were working with the whole parking lot issue that in the end kind of wasn't a good idea. And I did ask Dr. Rapisi if Highland could be used for the shuttle purposes for the food truck event. He called me and said it's fine on his end. So then I was worried about the transportation. I only put the agenda items on that were consistent from prior years, that we charged the township. And we did call the principal, Mr. Brett Schneider, at Main Stage, and I had actually Lori Cavallero call my request and say, what are you asking for? Are you asking for a donation of the shuttle? Or are you asking to pay? And he said, I'm asking the board for a donation. I said, okay, that's the way I'll put it on.
So is your question, let's be consistent, either donate both or charge both?
yeah, I mean, it's the township and I mean, that's bus, I mean, that's money in our buses, that's gas. I mean, and I know it's it's a short distance, but let's face it, the buses take up a lot of gas.
Burn a lot of
You're
diesel.
actually charging for the one that has a lesser time.
Time frame, yeah.
So what's our
So-
feedback? We either want to charge for both or donate both?
So one thing I'm still a little unclear on now is whether or not 6.60 is for the township or for the scholarship?
It is for the township because the request for the bus came from the township of Gloucester.
But it's actually for the scholarship committee, correct?
Scholarship committee benefits from all the proceeds of the
So-
Okay,
So bottom line goes to the scholarship.
so bottom line, it goes to the scholarship committee. Okay. I don't know, does anybody have any thoughts?
I think it's either both charge
Right.
or donate both, but it's $500 gonna make or break our district.
Right.
Right,
I say
Right.
donate. Give 'em-
I say donate both.
I agree.
Yeah.
So make a motion to amend 6.60
So to zero.
to zero.
Zero.
To donate, just
Yeah.
To donate the bus.
So
both.
No charge.
Thank you.
You're gonna second it?
you get a second.
Oh, yeah, second.
Janice, just so you know.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think I'm done on this part.
On this part,
Three words at the end.
do I have any other questions?
Sorry.
May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Dentino?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilch?
Yes,
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
I'm going to abstain on 6.4D and 6.6E. Yes on the balance.
Mr. Marks?
Yes. We'll move on to report of the business administrator.
Good evening, everyone. I do have one item to add to the agenda tonight. That will be item 7.7C. And it will read as follows. To approve a contract extension with Wolf Commercial Real Estate Consulting Services for the time period of September 1st, 2022 to November 30th, 2022. Have any questions on that? Then I would like to ask for a consent vote on items 7.1 through item 7.7C.
So moved on with the amendments.
Second.
Any questions?
Yes.
I did
Anybody-
have one, and
I'll let Mrs. Reese go first.
I had emailed about the dues reimbursement, and then I went back and looked at the bill list, and they're all different amounts. So can you just explain what the process is? Because I'm still a little confused.
That was one of my questions.
Well, I do know that there's different options that they can have, so that there's different, like, they're not always paying the same amount of dues. And then if you don't start at the beginning of the year, they get
Okay.
prorated for a certain amount of time. But I'll have to research to see exactly the specifics of what options they have.
But the process is the employee pays,
The employee
and then
pays-
you're paying them back instead of you taking it out of their
Their
paycheck and
paycheck.
paying for them all year.
Yeah,
we withhold from them all year long,
Okay,
and then union is paid that way. And then we reimburse the employees the dues. So basically, the board is covering the cost of the dues. But we don't do it until the end of
okay.
the year.
why were
Okay.
we,
all right, thank you. I
You're
get it now.
Any other questions?
I have the answer to that question, Mrs. Rich.
so why are we paying them?
We reimburse the Principals and Supervisors Association because they have a checking account, so we can send one check to their treasurer and then they disperse checks to individual members at the end of that year.
Right.
Okay,
The other union is quite small, only has individual members, so if you see their reimbursement check, I
Right.
believe you see individual reimbursement checks as opposed to just the
just the
association.
association.
So, just for clarity and transparency.
Okay.
Ms. Gilch, go.
Okay, so that's that one. On check 127131. I have a question.
Can you give that number again, please?
127131. It's on page 12.
You did, an email today about that particular check.
I work late. I'm just,
No, it's
and I
okay.
didn't get a
just wanted
chance.
To tell everyone the same thing. I believe Mr. Bilodeau is looking into that a little further. Dr. Martin provides the list of involuntary transfers for her department. And that individual was on the list, so was given the check. And Mr. Bilodeau will follow up with Dr. Martin regarding the whole process. There was some back and forth.
okay. But I couldn't quite figure that out if it was not involuntary.
Dr. Martin and I
Okay,
are going to
that's
continue
fine.
to discuss it. I think we're going to have a suitable answer.
Okay. And check 127336. I think this was brought up before and I thought it was going to change for the ESY aids, that it's going to a individual and not a company.
Is this Kristen?
Yes,
So they have, every company has to file with the IRS a Form W-9. It's not with us, it's with the IRS.
right.
And then that dictates what their company name is, and the district has to follow that IRS form and pay what that form says. So we really don't have anything to do with that. We have to follow the form
With
that
the
they have
W.
filed with the IRS.
All right. It just doesn't seem like, I don't know.
There are actually quite a few vendors that we use that.
That's what,
have
that's
the
what,
same-
that's what John said. The W-9 says that, so you have to follow it.
And
Okay.
then they get a 1099, if that's how that works. All right, thanks.
I think that's it.
Any other questions?
I do.
Yes.
No.
Under 7.7B, approval withdrawal for the district's emergency reserve in the amount of 300,000 for the purpose of completing the replacement and upgrades of security camera systems. Do we have enough cameras? Are we?
So this is a project that we did put into the 22-23 budget, funded with the emergency reserve for 300,000. And when we originally looked at the project, I expected it to cost a whole lot more than actually what it's going to cost.
Okay.
And I thought we'd have to do it in phases, and it's basically to replace the entire system that we have. So all the software behind it, how actually, like the users interface with the system, everything like that, because it's pretty antiquated the way it is. And then to go through our cameras, replace anything that we're not supposed to be using, replace anything that's broken. And then at the end, to go back and determine, well, what are the principals really in need of in the buildings? Where would they like additional cameras? And this is all built into the one package. We've been meeting with multiple vendors and we've gotten multiple proposals. So this resolution actually gets the funding in place. So because the cost was lower, I just need to withdraw more money from that reserve so we can do the whole thing at once. And then a recommendation was made to me from the team that I had looking at the vendors. And then hopefully next month on the agenda, we'll have an award, a contract award to a particular vendor for the whole project. And all the cameras will be replaced and the whole system will be new, more user friendly and more up to date.
How quickly will we have it finished?
Steve, I think they were anticipating it to take too long,
No, I think it would be
a couple months.
a couple months.
And it doesn't have to be done in the summer or anything. It's something, especially the system part at the head end can be done all behind the scenes. And it's usually in a room in the school that no one really is using during the day or very much. So they should be able to do that during the day. And then after the system's in place, they start going through and replacing all the cameras.
Will that include outside and inside?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Have any other questions?
Sorry. I have a quick question.
Don't.
7.7A, just a quick question about that transfer. Is there any impact on the pre-K health fund? Like, I mean, other than the money's been transferred, but there's no impact to the administration of that?
No, so it's just a budget transfer. So when we build the budget each year, we have it on particular line items. And especially with the preschool, I wait until the end of the year a lot of times to move some of the things over. So for example, we might prorate people's salaries. A piece of it might be to like principals, like the buildings where we have preschool, I'll prorate a piece of the principal's salary to preschool, and then the rest would be to the general fund. And I do that with electricity, I do that with gas, I do that with all kinds of things, but it's easier for me to make those adjustments at the end of the year. So I'll see, like, for example, electricity. I'll see that we spent $800,000 for the year in electricity, and I'll say, okay, well, I'm gonna charge 10% to preschool. I'm just making up numbers. So at the end of the year, I'll calculate the $80,000, I'll make an adjustment and move it over. And because I wait till the end of the year, I need budget transfers towards the end because I don't have it exactly right on all the right lines. So that's actually a transfer to close out the 22 year.
Okay, stick with about 22.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? I have a roll call, please.
Mrs. Dentino?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilch?
No on check 127, 127, and yes on the rest.
Mrs. Reese,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Abstain on check numbers 011517, 013940, 127143, and 127347. Yes on the ballot.
Mrs. Johnson,
Abstain on check number 127133. No on check number 127248. Yes on the balance.
Mr. Marks,
Yes. We'll move on to old business. Mr. Villadelle?
Well, I don't know quite. I guess I'll throw this into old business. I guess it was going to be new business, but the last time the Board of Education took the meeting purposely on the road and had star students was February of 2020. And we haven't had that student recognition program since. The board president has asked if we would consider rekindling it. It was a good program. I do believe that some of the administrators have indicated that they have some ideas to enhance that program from what it was before. And I know that Mr. Tro has received some of those requests to from the administration on what their ideas. That were more, Mr. Tro probably has a better way of explaining it, but they were more student-centered type of, more curricular-centered type of recognition of our students. But I think the essential point I want to make is we want to bring the Star Student Program back. I do think it was a positive thing. But I don't know, Tim, if I have failed in trying to hint at some of the things that I know that various principals come to you and have said, hey, what about this? Or hey, what about that? Which wasn't the same as two students per building type of thing.
Basically, the simple little switch that they were suggesting related to focusing on possibly programs that are going on in schools. So, for example, we were just talking about preschool. Perhaps some of the preschool students would come in and do a demonstration of something that they do in class and then potentially talk a little bit about their curriculum. So maybe give things more both a curricular focus and sometimes extracurricular focus, just some of the great things that are going on in the schools. Because sometimes there gets to be a little bit of a challenge. How do you pick two students to come to the board to be recognized? What makes them stand out so much? And this way, possibly more students could come, demonstrate without really taking extra time, and just demonstrate some of the great things that are going on in the schools, and things that maybe the board wouldn't get a chance to see on a day in, day out basis, that they would be able to get a little bit of a taste of it as demonstrated by students during board meetings. So that was just a slight switch.
So Mr. Cho, for the benefit of the board, could I task you with trying to summarize what the spirit of what the principal is trying to garner, and I can get it to the board and they can take a look at it before it comes. But we do want that program to come very much back into our schools and recognize our students. So is everyone in agreement with that? All right, that's all I have, Mr. Marks.
Thanks. Thank you. New business?
Yes, this just came in today, so it wasn't in any way embargoed. But the National Blue Ribbon Program has sent an email, separate emails to Mr. McCarthy and to me. We have been invited to Washington, DC to attend a ceremony in recognition of Glendora Elementary School. It is November 3rd and 4th. The reason I'm bringing it up tonight, Mr. Marks, and everyone for its approval, is that I have to let the program director know by October 1 that we would be attending or not. Mr. McCarthy, his invitation, Mr. Marks, is for he, along with one additional staff member. I did ask Mr. McCarthy what his idea, how do you pick one? He felt that he had a core group of people that were essential in the application phase and kind of bringing that blue ribbon, and he wanted to see if, or if the board would agree that one of those people that were part of his, I guess, inner core could go be the one picked. I don't know who it's gonna be, but
Mr. Bilodeau, are you invited to that?
I'm invited to that.
Do you
but
have a
Do you have a
guest?
plus one?
Do you have a plus one, Mr. Bilodeau?
I don't have a plus one, and the Secret Service told me to be quiet on everything else.
Mhm.
Mrs. Gilchin.
That's their prerogative.
Mrs. Gilch isn't real happy about this, just in case anybody would like to know. because I
There
feel
was a
that
lot
the
of
board should have been
security.
invited.
There was a lot of security, ladies and gentlemen, for Friday.
I don't
and
understand what the security was. Can you explain to me what the security was?
I had something with your name on it. I'm only kidding.
No, I don't
I would have
understand.
loved to have the whole board there.
I
I'm
don't
being dead
understand what the
serious.
security issue was.
Mr. Marks did see documents in my office, and I showed them to him,
Yes.
and he can either speak or I'll have to prove it to you.
I would like. you
No, I
to
would
prove
like a copy of the letter.
I will send that to you.
I already asked for a copy
I
of the
will
letter.
send you the embargo letter from the Secretary of Education, okay? I will.
Is it going to give me information on why the security was so tight? Like, who was there that the security
The
was so tight?
Secretary of
Secretary of
Education.
Secretary of Education,
That's it.
yes, it
Okay.
was pretty much his.
I think there's other people more important than that should have.
Then the Secretary of Education?
Could you imagine the security then?
Yeah, well, then I would understand. I do not understand this. I'm just not happy because I am a Glendora parent. I've been a Glendora parent, and I think the board should have been invited to it. It is a big thing, and the board is a part of this, of making the staff and administration what they are, and I'm just letting you know that I'm not happy.
And I heard it loud and clear, Mrs.
I'm
Gilch.
sure you
I
have. Just
think
send me a
you
copy of that letter,
certainly have
please.
Earned the right to be there. Unfortunately, I couldn't bring it. I'm sorry.
Not a problem.
Here.
Maybe next time.
Understood. So do I have permission to proceed, tell Mr. McCarthy?
All in favor?
Yeah, it's not even a board vote. It's just.
I'm just saying,
it's
it'll,
an
we
administrative
have time
function.
next month to put it on for professional development. I just didn't want it to be.
PD on that?
Professional development.
It's a
It's a
trip.
party. Okay.
It's a party.
All right. I'm letting you know, Mr. Marks. I'm gonna bring you to watch.
I
the
wouldn't
party.
consider that
Party.
professional development.
Oh,
But it's a
I'm
nice
going to the
honor.
party.
It's a very nice
It's
honor,
a
it is,
wonderful
and
honor.
I'm not saying it's not a nice honor, it is, I just don't understand what the tight security was in that area, I just don't.
I think it's a once in a lifetime invitation.
It is.
and
It is.
And Ellen, I
Yes,
do
yes,
believe
Scott.
you should be able to go.
Thank you.
Minus one or plus one.
You're allowed to go.
Thank you.
You don't.
That's all I have
You're
on
not
any
going.
business. I don't want to push another thing.
At this time, I'll open up the public comments. Yes, Sharon. Name and address, please.
Jared Thomas, 501 Cecilia Drive, Blackwood. I'm just curious with the resignations in attachment 6.6C. There's 17 associated with primarily support staff positions that it seems like those folks declined the position. And I wasn't sure if the board could offer any insight as to the reason for their declination.
Very nothing specific, but if you want to talk generally, I guess you could, but you can't reveal too much.
6.6
C.
See,
It's declining, because it's the ones that are declined position.
Mr. Mercado?
Speaking very general terms.
Extremely general.
There are individuals that sometimes, when they apply, and they go through the process, Mr. Thomas, that they don't provide a process. There's some individuals here that we
they're
hire,
all declined.
that, these other offers in other school districts.
I was just curious if it was like, if it had to do anything with just like the level of pay specifically, because I know last month there was the issue raised about paraprofessional pay being low, and I was curious if that was unusual or maybe a driving factor as to what may have caused us, those declinations. So I understand if you can't talk about it, so but that was just what I was curious about.
Thank you. Any other? Ms. Hendry?
Good morning, Deanna Hendry, Silverdale. Just a kind suggestion. I've noticed when I spoke to other parents that have children in the special education program system track, we noticed that our case managers change at times yearly. My son is in special education, and this is the third case manager that he has had. How can parents, teachers, and case managers develop a partnership in their children's education if there's a constant change where the parent and the case manager and the student have to get to know each other every year, and it's just the same repeated process? I mean, I didn't know that my son's case manager changed until the day before school. I would have thought that we would have gotten a letter like saying, hey, you know, your new case manager is X. I did reach out to the new case manager. I attached my son's IEP. She said that she would review it. I mean, we have professional days before school starts. Don't you think that the case manager should know what or who their child is and what their needs are and what their IEP states before the first day of school? So therefore, the child can get the special education needs up and running the first day of school and not have any delay. I think that's the reason why it's really important that the case manager stays without the child's education through their whole entire experience with the district, as opposed to changing. I'm not the only parent that has a continuous change in case managers. Like, how can we have this partnership if it's a continuous get to know you?
I think you make a good point. Good evening, Mrs. Henry. How are you? I think you make a good point. I understand the cohesiveness. I think there are variables to give you a complete answer. So if you don't mind, I don't want to punt so much, but I would want to speak to Dr. Martin for her perspective before I would come back with an answer.
Sure.
I mean, there are staff that we have, and they have a certain expertise, and I'm sure Dr. Martin would be much better at answering this. We have resources that leave us, and we need to insert new case managers, and so until I get a comprehensive answer, I don't think that it is something that we are just trying to rotate them for the purpose of rotating to make some inconsistencies or something new each year for a family or a teacher. Just, I know the cohesive unit you seek, but I need to talk to Dr. Martin.
Understood.
Thank you. Yes, sir, the man in the back.
So I have a couple.
Name and address, please.
Josh Davis, 14 Mayflower Drive. So forgive me if it's covered previously. The addendum, were, I guess, 7C. There was a real estate before they were they doing before, and how long have they been under contract?
The addition, Mr. Davison, you said? Is, yeah, we have had a real estate broker, commercial real estate broker. We are trying to sell the Grenlock building on the Black Horse Pike. It has been a long pursuit to do that. We're in the process of talking with a prospective buyer. However,
That's all you can say right now.
we need the extension so that agent, that real estate agent can represent the board to go further. So we gave that person a 90-day extension to go a little bit further.
And is there a cost for in regards to that, or are they just being on a baseline?
Not until we settle it.
It would only be something that would be a yielded commission on the sale.
I have a few more, if that's okay. On 7.7B, put out to the public, and how is it received for the process? In other words, is it a blind bid for a set of parameters that is given to anybody who needs that contract?
We met with multiple vendors who are under either state contract or state co-op, meaning they've already been bid by another entity and they were the lowest bid and given a contract. We're basically piggybacking off of them. And we have met with 3 vendors, and then internally we will decide which vendor meets our criteria the best.
Okay, so is that based off of a blind process where you just look at this meeting specs and standards as opposed to name? I only asked.
The bidding's already done.
Defensive contracts, government, and so what we received blind bids, even though it was providing the service, so there were no bids. So now you know who's giving you the bids, or not. They should be assigned a number, so it can be a blind bid process, and then you'll be able to find out that
that, with that vendor, it's not how it works.
It's not a blind bid. It's been bid by another entity, so it's either been bid by the state of New Jersey or any other local co-op that has the authority to do so. And then these vendors are awarded contracts through those entities, and we are using those contracts through those entities.
Not be better to have, with any sense of bias at all, by having a blind bid process, which is common throughout the US.
New Jersey has their own set of purchasing rules, very extensive, and we are following those laws and regulations.
I did blind bids in New Jersey myself before, so kind of.
I mean, I could look into it further. I've never used a blind bid process before. Even when we do a formal bid, we put out bid specs to anyone who wants to bid, but we still know what vendor responds.
Right.
We're required to take the lowest.
Sure, you can know what vendor responds, absolutely, but as you say, make your decision, whoever's putting on it, office, everybody's assigned a line number, A or A, C, D, and then in the inspection, the price, that's it, then that number gets the contract. So, I'm just trying to understand the process, because I don't, we don't have any bidding process is different than I've ever seen before. It's always been designed on the federal and state level. I've done it. It's been pretty much above board, so I my other question is in regards to actually specifically how we divvied up the schedule in the middle schools for social studies and science. My son is a sixth grader at home, and they have a schedule now where it's 6 days on in science, then 6 days in social studies, and they switch back and forth. Not even a full week, or just over a full week. I can tell you right now, no teacher is happy with it, no parent is happy with it, no student is happy with it. Why can't we just have a more realistic, maybe switch off every marking period, or 30 days with kids can actually settle in, sit down and learn something? Why would we do 6 days on, 6 days off? Or 6 days, 6 days science. Seems kind of confusing to me, and that's definitely my case.
Well, that's a good question. That is a topic of middle school scheduling that has been discussed quite frequently with the administration and the teachers union, Mr. Davison. And there was several different proposals. I know that Mr. Cho, our assistant superintendent, could be more eloquent in the answer, but he was trying very much to garner more consistency of schedule for our middle school students receiving both those subject areas. And ultimately, we got closer and closer to a plan that both sides could live with, and that's what they're doing this year. Mr. Cho, I don't know if you want to further enhance that, but it had been kind of locked into a different pattern and didn't seem to, from our perspective, be as effective as a different variant of the schedule.
The only thing I would add is just that the goal was previously students would frequently go a full year between having social studies or science. And so the goal was to get a schedule in which students would have social studies and science for the entire school year and have it in all 4 marking periods. There were a whole lot of reasons for that. That was a frequent concern brought forth by parents, teachers, students over the years. So there's just been a lot of back and forth trying to find something. Philadelphia said that people were doing it. There were pros and cons to any of them. And so there was never any kind of idea that somehow this new proposal was the perfect one, which is the belief was that students would be better off having social studies and science for an entire year rather than potentially having gaps of at least 6 months, if not 12 months. Science. So that was the rationale.
I get the logic. I think it's a good idea to have social studies and science everywhere. But my issue is the duration, how to properly assess the chapter inside of a week. Sure, but we're becoming more assessment. These grades that run out. So, I mean, is it not a reasonable expectation to have kids be able to be settled in and learn? And I don't think they can do that on a 6-day rotation. So my question is, can we not have these schools maybe next year? Because I guess we're stuck that way right now. But at least having half a semester, science and half term, maybe someone that actually learn something for maybe semester.
Thank you, sir. We'll take that under advisement.
And then.
Any other public comments? Yes, your name and address, please.
April Myers, 626 Chamber Court, Sicklerville. I went to school here all throughout. I graduated from Highland. When I was in middle school, I had 1 period of social studies and 1 period of science all year long. Why is that not a thing anymore? Is it teachers? Like we just don't have teachers for it? Or, I mean, I don't get that. We had 8 periods. We had CLA, we had social studies, we had science, we had math, we had photography, we had woodwork, we had metal shop, thank you. I don't get that. I mean, my kid, my science social studies just 100 students. That's not fair to her. And it's not fair to my kid. It's not fair to his kid.
Mr. Miller?
Or the 900.
Mrs. Myers, I was similar to you. I had those like 45-minute periods of
Yeah,
everything.
I don't get it. Like,
Yep. Including home ec that I made like apple pies, and I really loved that class when I could do that. But
Pies were terrible.
yeah, the pies were terrible. Thank you, Ellie. Several years ago, and I would say a good dozen years ago, we had a different middle school schedule.
Mhm.
And at the then time, there was a philosophy of going to a block schedule, which would really increase those tested areas. I know Mr. Davison said assessment, but you know, language arts and mathematics is what the state really compels and tests our students on. So there was a change of amounts of minutes that went to those subject areas. And so that 45-minute, like 740s or whatever you had gone, was changed.
To that program high school.
Yeah.
When it comes to history and science, because now they're getting 6 days of some science where they're gonna try and learn chem and all that stuff. They go to high school where they have a full period of it,
Mm-hmm.
including, like, I just don't think that's fair to them at all.
Well,
They're
again,
behind the 8
we-
ball, I feel like.
the district several years ago made the change to block, and it was in response to when we get tested in our grades, it is, you know, up through 8th grade, it is primarily language arts and mathematics. So that's where the predominance of minutes are in this block. But there is arguments to be had. I am certain that Mr. Tro would have a lengthy discussion with you over breaking it all up into other subjects, but then that would mean the amount of language arts teachers we had would be reduced to bring on more of other type of grade area people. And so I don't have the perfect answer for you, but I just letting you know, about a dozen years ago, we went to block, we stuck with it. We've found now with science and social studies that the students just aren't getting a consistent, you know, exposure to it, and that's why we made the change.
Thank you, Mr. Dildo. Thank you. Do I have any other comments? Yes, sir.
Keith Gibbons with Blackwood. Contracts were brought up, and a handful of meetings, there were discussions of contracts that were tabled and put aside. Has it all been handled?
So those contracts that have been tabled, I think you're talking about a couple months ago, those have not since been acted upon now.
Is there a reason?
I can't get into that. It's a personnel matter that I can't discuss publicly, but I will say that the tabled contracts have not been brought back up or approved by the board at this point.
Thank you, sir. Any other? Mr. Pildes?
As a science middle school teacher, I'm learning the curve too. So it's new to all of us. But I have a real sincere question about, we have a rule here, come Manning, see something, say something. The SRO person, my officer Erica, she's a sweetheart, came into my classroom and had a big discussion on like texting and social media, and we're paying big bucks for this SRO officer. And the rule is, see something, say something. The 13-year-old in my classroom asked the SRO officer, what if something goes down, like my friend friend's gonna commit suicide after school hours. Who do we see something, say something to? I thought that was a brilliant question brought up by a child saying, we could have all the information in the world, but who do we go to after hours? Is there something on our website that they could call or something? They want to remain anonymous, but they're afraid for their friend who is
Well,
on the edge.
Well, anytime that you have an imminent threat to someone, someone wants to take their life, I think the police department should be called. But I thought that you were talking about mental
I don't know,
health.
because it's being pulled in from school perspective, and the SRO officer is saying, I'm here for you, and they're like, well, how do we reach you? How do we?
But after hours, they cannot reach that individual. The immediacy of the problem, someone trying to take their life, it should be a 911 call and let the authorities handle it. They are much quicker reacting in that regard.
So that would be my answer to the.
That would be my answer to give to them, yes.
Okay, so we don't have anything on our website about.
No, I think common sense would be someone's in danger, 911.
It just blew my mind when the kid themselves
Yeah,
asked that question, and I'm like, do you know something I don't know?
Dr.
You know,
Martin,
because I don't want to see.
You want to
anybody.
add, please?
I will take care of it, because there are resources. All of the students are given a second resource to, it's tough. Talk to this 24-hour hotline.
We have that here.
It's national, yeah.
Is that the program you were talking about last time?
The Solace, does the Solace have
Is it
anything?
Solace?
Care Solace is
But that's
a
not what he asked.
resource for services, but it
You're saying
does
something
not
else.
address
He just
emergencies.
asked. That was what I
But we
brought
will
up
make
last
sure
meeting.
that all the students know, the whole counseling office, will make sure that.
Is that something that could be on our district
We
website?
will take care of it.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Mrs. Fretz?
I just want a clarification on this, on the, how parents know that we now offer a video for them to see. And the reason that I'm asking is, I was at the school bus this morning, bus stops. And a parent told me that it's impossible to find it on our website. So I didn't have any knowledge of that myself because I didn't go on our website. So today I read, and I had a really hard time finding out how to view this. And I found that you have to go to GloucesterTownshipSchools.org. Now, not all parents know that, and I know that they don't know that because when I was researching all schools and how you get to see their live stream or their video, you could just Google, and I Googled Washington Township Public Schools, and I would get the information. So unless if you go on GloucesterTownshipSchools.org, there is no way to get to a link for it. And once you get on GloucesterTownshipSchools.org, then you have to look down and you have to click on where it says news and announcements. I don't really think that qualifies as, well, I guess it's news, but you would have to know to click on that. And then after you click on that, you have to go to Gloucester Township Public Schools official YouTube page. I mean, there's got to be a simpler way that parents could go to our website, like I did in Washington Township, and Surrey Hills, and the other schools, and just there it is for me. Now, if you go to Gloucester Township itself and you want to see a council meeting that was last week or yesterday, it's right there to click on and get it. So why is it so hard to get a website?
We'll take a look at it.
Do you give Mr. Wells to make it more user-friendly?
We're going to take a look at it, yes.
What?
We'll try to make it more
Well,
user-friendly.
and how do parents know, because you just have to be a kindergarten parent, and you have to understand they don't know anything, probably, because that's their first child and they're just coming. But her questions were, how did we, if they hadn't heard it, because I said you can do it a while back, you're gonna have that ability. She said, how would parents even know? So how do our parents get to know that we have this? Not this company.
How about blast?
We could send out an email blast, but if you want a true confession, I don't like my face on film, Mrs. Fretz, so I'm trying to keep it away from the public. I will send a blast out, and once we have a little bit easier access, then we'll follow with some announcement, okay?
Mr. Wells has something to say.
Mr. Wells, you have something to add?
Yeah, I mean, we did put it on the news and announced, because that is the thing that is always up top. There's, there's 5 million things on it. Another suggestion we could make is, the reason I put them on our official Gloucester Township YouTube channel is so they will always be in the same spot, instead of doing a different link every month. If you go to the Gloucester Township YouTube page, you're gonna get every single board meeting there ever was. You can also subscribe to that. Subscribe to that page, and you will be notified for every new video that goes up. So we could put information like that.
So initially, they need to know, and then they can subscribe to that part.
Mr. Wells, can you just make it more user-friendly? We're so not computer savvy, boom, boom, right there.
And then,
There's probably ways we could embed it on the website. It's a little more complicated. Certainly look into that.
Awesome, thank you. Mr. Davidson, you had another question?
Just making a suggestion, my daughter just recently went into high school in second grade. Every ID they have has helpline numbers on the back. I don't know if that's something that we can look at here. So maybe that can something that can be published here on IT.
Did she have that when she was at Mullen?
So that brings, I know we have multiple school districts that feed into the high schools. High schools have, parents are running back and forth, back and forth. This is probably not the first time you've ever heard this, and I'm sure it will be less. But is there any possible way these school boards can work on coordinating days off, in services, and everything else? Because I'm telling you, as kids, middle school, high school, I might as well not work. So, is there any way these school boards can please work together, coordinate the schedules, and make them work with their parents, try to get back to work after 2 years of COVID?
We'll take that on advisement, thank you. Ms. Myers, you have another question? You'll be the
I was
last.
just gonna say, on the app, the Gloucester Township Public Schools, as soon as you open it up, the YouTube channel is right there.
Okay.
As soon as you open the app. It will say. It says, Gloucester Township Public Schools official YouTube page. And when you open it, it has the link for the YouTube, and then click on that, and it has, if it would have it did have the school board meeting from last month. It has teacher of the year, it has a bunch of videos already located on it.
okay.
Thank you.
But I'm
Ms.
just saying,
Phillip,
it's right there.
can you make sure that's an email blast?
I'm saying it's
Thank you.
We will.
All right, this time we're going to move on to board member comments.
Yeah, I would just like to comment,
Johnson?
to congratulate Glendora School as being a blue ribbon school.
I do know that.
It is?
I won't say anything else.
Just 2 quick things. Again, the Blue Ribbon School for Glendora Elementary, that's just absolutely phenomenal. I looked at the press release from it, saw this quote from Secretary Miguel Cordona. He said that we know that our future will only be as strong as the education we provide to all children. Blue Ribbon schools have gone above and beyond to keep students healthy and safe while meeting their academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs. These schools show what it is possible to make an endearing, positive difference in students' lives. And I really like that quote from him. I just want to put out my heartfelt congratulations to that school. Just amazing stuff. And to Mr. McCarthy, great stuff. I feel like a broken record. I talk about as a community celebrating successes and collaborating on challenges. And it's like, it's wonderful to have such a thing to celebrate in our district. So. I'm sorry, one other comment. We had the curriculum meeting earlier today. I thought it was a great meeting. I'm really excited about what Mr. Tro had presented out, and I'm going to be working with Ms. Reese on taking some of that to the ad hoc committee on board goals. Really pleased about the progress there. So thank you very much, Mr. Tro, and looking forward to working with everybody on that.
Thank you. Ms. Reese.
I would just also like to offer sincere congratulations to everyone involved at Glendora. That is like a really awesome feather in our cap, and I really, really thank them for all their years of hard work to get there.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Just congratulations again, dittoing what they said for the blue ribbon.
Thank you. I'm gonna gloat a little bit on the blue ribbon.
Okay, Mr. Marks, you do that.
As I got the opportunity, and was invited, it was amazing to walk in that building and see.
Yeah,
Mr.
rub it
McCarthy.
in.
I'm trying.
Rubbing it in.
To see Mr. McCarthy's reaction. He was like a kid at Christmas. He was excited. He was amped. He just couldn't contain himself. And then when we brought the children and staff in to tell them, the kids knew they won some, but they didn't understand to the magnitude what they won. The staff, they were hugging, high five, and taking pictures of video, and it was amazing to be a part of it. It's not just showing what Glendora School can do, it's what the Gloucester Township family can do. So keep up the good work and congratulations. I am extremely proud. So may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.